For our video discussion this week, we were tasked with accessing and utilizing the JSTOR database to research articles related to the topic that we had been researching. The topic that I had chosen was the effect of weather, fortifications, and topography on the American and British forces during the American Revolution. The JSTOR database was very user-friendly. I was able to be very specific with my searches by adding those different fields and choosing where in the sources I wanted those words to appear. Words like climate, I was not so worried about those being in the titles as much as I was about them being included in the bodies, the abstracts, those portions of the articles and different sources that were going to be provided. Once I was able to start the actual search in JSTOR, it provided me with three very solid sources right off the bat. I didn't have to scroll through pages and pages and pages to try and find these different sources. They were pretty much right at the top. And the first source that I utilized was titled Food, Fuel, and the New England Environment in the War for Independence, 1775 to 1776. This article was published in 2007, and it focuses not only on the American forces and what they were facing during the American Revolution, but it also touches on what the actual colonists in the New England colony were facing with the British occupation of Boston. It focuses on the weather that they had to face, on trying to have adequate places to stay, adequate food sources, all those different things that these American forces and the colonists needed to be able to survive in that. It also talks a little bit about how there was an economic focus shift during the American Revolution, where prior to the American Revolution there wasn't as much of a commercialized focus on things such as like dairy farming, but after that, after the American Revolution, there was a shift in focus to those different types of topics. This article did not have a bibliography. The sources were in the footnotes. And so all of those different things were in there. They weren't separated out like we typically see in a Turabian format where we had primary and secondary sources noted. The second source that I utilized says, "Our Army will hut this winter at Valley Forge, George Washington Decision Making in the Councils of War." And this one was published in 2020. And this one really focuses on how weather and different topographical challenges that George Washington had to face really impacted his decision on having his army camp the winter at Valley Forge. And this article gave ample time. It was very well organized. It was broken down into sections based on the different challenges that George Washington faced and the decisions that he had to make in order to overcome those challenges. And this utilized a variety of different sources, including letters to and from George Washington, different books. It had a very wide range and mix of primary and secondary sources. The third resource that I utilized was titled The British Occupation of Newport, Rhode Island, 1776 to 1779. And this article really focuses on the British and their occupation of Newport, Rhode Island. It focuses on how Newport, Rhode Island used to be a very prominent city on the coast. It had very deep water ports. It was very useful for shipping. But after the British occupation, there was so much damage done to Newport that it never really recovered. And this article was very, it wasn't organized into like different sections. It was really all just kind of one big group of information. But there were a number of secondary and primary sources, including diary entries, military orders, different things like that. All in all, I really like utilizing the JSTOR database, and I look forward to getting to use it more and see what different types of resources it has.